I, business never stops, and I like my customers to be nice and relaxed. So welcome back, Frank Smith. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Just landed this morning back from the US, ready to go.
You've just come back today from the Triple G fight.
Yeah, I had a couple of days. I actually had a couple of days. I tried to have a couple of days holiday. It didn't feel like that. But it was, I was in LA and then came back, so feeling fresh.
Not like some of them. Some of them, I think, came back on the Monday, and they still look like they're a bit hanging now. That jet lag.
Doesn't exist. It's a frame of mind. But to be fair, Eddie's been working hard. I've been off, lazing about, and
Lazy's not a word I'd use to describe you. Anyway, talk to me about that Triple G fight. Actually, I was one of them. I said to Eddie, I'm one of these DAZN paying customers. Pay-per-view, yep, good fight. Your thoughts on Triple G? Because to me, he just looked a bit pale. He looked a bit drawn. I don't know. What were your thoughts? You were there. You were ringside. What were your thoughts on it?
Look, I think the early part of that fight, he obviously maybe the first round Golovkin. I didn't actually watch much of the first round. I'm running about outside doing stuff, but I think sort of the first 6-7 rounds Canelo seemed to breeze through quite easily. Golovkin then tried to come back into it from there, but look, I still think Golovkin's still got more to offer the sport. He's still like 160. He's still got the world titles at 160. He went in there against Canelo, who we all know is an amazing fighter, and Canelo, looked very good in there. But I still think he's got a big future. I still think there's fights out there for him that he can win, and I still think he's interested in fighting. I saw him straight after the fight in his dressing room. He was like, "I'm ready to go again." So.
Yeah, because watching it from home, I'm a massive Triple G fan. I always have been. He was the one that sort of like brought my eyes onto that weight division because of how he was, because he was always an inside fighter, a boxer, but he liked to go inside. But this time he just seemed to hold back. His age, he's 40, he's getting on, he's been in the game for a bit. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Look, I think.
Just his performance.
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't his best performance of his career. It's quite. I think anyone can say that. Canelo, I think, 32 years old now, 33. He's a younger man in there. But Canelo's obviously, like I say, he's a brilliant fighter. Pound for pound, got to be up there still, albeit with the loss against Bivol, top. Could still be top. Where he still says he's top number one in the world. So, I just think he's still got something there, Golovkin. And in other fights, and he shows up and gives up and is 100% of himself. I still think he's still got many fights at 160, but let's see. Ultimately, it's up to him. That's what he said to me as well. He said he still wants to carry on.
And at the end of the day, ultimately, it's his choice. But I'm one of these fans that, watches them through their career and then starts to feel a bit sorry for them when they start to see them go on the decline. But it's an opinion and everyone's got one. So we talk about Canelo then, another fighter that obviously stepped up to fight Bivol. If you know boxing, anyone would have known that Bivol was a handful, a seasoned fighter, very, very good fighter. Do you think that Canelo underestimated his ability in that? And sort of because no one really knew what he was, he didn't put in that effort as he should have done?
I don't know really, because I know Canelo knows boxing very well. It's not like everyone's overlooked Bivol. I think Bivol had a great performance that night. And did everything right on the night. So I think you can't take anything away from Dmitry Bivol, and I think Canelo still believes he can go back in there and get the win. He believes there's things that he can work on. That's the fight he he definitely wants that fight against Dmitry Bivol. So I don't think it's a case, like I say, of overlooking him. I think it's just Dmitry Bivol had a fantastic performance that night. So, but I'm looking forward to hopefully we can make it happen again. Obviously, it's Dmitry Bivol's promoter and Canelo's promoter over there. We can go at each other again.
What is that like when the two of you have got two fighters and they'll end up on opposite sides of the coin? What is that like in the office? I know I'm going off tangent a bit, but it's always something that's intrigued me in business.
No, it's only a bit of humour. It's more, I've had a close relationship with Bivol and his team for a long time, worked with them since 6-7 years now. So speak to him speak to Vadim, his manager, every day. So, it's more the case of that. It's not so much we're butting heads about the two of them, but but that's like a number of fighters. Some people I'm close with, some he's close with, some other people are close with in the team, and that's the way it works. And that's with so many fighters, that's kind of the way it has to work.
I like that because it's nice to know that you have got All right, then you didn't say favourites, but you've got ones that you get on with, and it will be obvious that you do get on with them. So Canelo mentioned in the press conference then that he said, he's had 4 fights in 1 year, and we know that the fighters these days aren't having 4 fights in 1 year. So credit to him, he said, look, I'm going to take some time out, reflect, and then I'm going to come back. One of the names that we were interested in, that I was interested in, is Benn, a fighter that he sort of like stomped his feet and went, we don't need to talk about him. That was kind of like the air I got from the presser. I mean, what were your thoughts on that?
Look, I don't think Canelo has to prove himself against anyone. I don't think he has to answer to anyone. He's shown time and time again that he's willing to take challenges, all the way back to 10 years ago against Mayweather, or maybe 9 years ago, whatever it was. He's never shied away from anything, and he's boxed at the highest level now. And that run he's been on, throughout, and the opponents he's been in with, and those training camps he's been through. Like you say, a lot of the present day fighters, even at a lower level, aren't fighting that much, and not because the fights aren't necessarily there, just because of it's heavy duty. And when you're training at the level he's training, when you're sparring at the level he's sparring, and then getting in the fights he's getting in, and doing it every 3 months, that's kind of unheard of. When you think he went on the back of like Callum Smith, Avni Yildirim, with like a 2.5 month between those, then Billy Joe Saunders, 2.5 months between those, then Caleb Plant, so that was between December and November. He had those 4 fights. You just don't see it. And then Dmitry Bivol, and then Gennady Golovkin, and then he wants to I think he wants to take some time now. He hasn't really taken any time to really recover from injuries, and then every boxer will tell you that in those sort of camps you're always going to pick things up. So he's got he's done a lot more than a lot of the fighters of present day would do.
And coming to that then, do you feel like the boxing fans, myself being one of them, do you feel like sometimes we get a bit too demanding, and we're sort of like, I don't know, arguing for fighters to be out every 5 minutes and comparing them to the fighters of the old? I mean, how do you deal with that as a promoter?
Look, I think it's definitely changed. I think, ultimately we want to keep fighters active, but there's a balancing act between the level of them having tough 12-round fights, going back to back every 3 months or so, and what the fans want. Some fans want to see them fighting every month. Back in the day, maybe I think it was it Eubank had something like, I don't know, 6-7 fights, but you just don't see that you don't really see that at all now. Canelo probably leading the way. You got I think it was Tevin Farmer had 4 world title defences in 12 months when he was with us. Jesse Rodriguez will have 4 fights in a year period as well. So we want to keep fighters active, but at the same time, it's not easy.
Yeah, I get that, and like I said, I think sometimes we can get a bit demanding. But you mentioned the key name, a part of your family, the next generation of Eubank. We've got that fight coming up, October the 8th, which I'm extremely excited about. I don't care what anybody says. I cannot wait for that fight. I watched their father's fight, so it's an important bout for me to see the next gen. How is that going?
It's good. I'm staying out of it, to be honest. I'm not talking to anyone about anything, and neither team, I'm not involved. I'm just putting on an event. Yeah, it's great. I don't know how anyone's doing in camp. I watched some footage that you're going to see on Make the Days Count content, which was unbelievable, by the way. It comes out, I think, on Sunday night. We're putting that out. So the first build-up program for that. So I know they're both looking in great shape. I know they're training very hard for it. I see like the Eubank stuff with the food. Connor's in the gym. It's all part of the build-up. Yeah, I don't. Look, people will read into it as much as they want to, but I think it's just adding to the whole build-up to the show, and looking forward to it.
Devil's advocate, if I was to ask you just to step out of Matchroom and step out of the fact that you are a Eubank family member, who would you put your money on to win that?
Boxing. The sport. I'm not getting involved in all that. I think I've said, both, Connor essentially coming up in nearly 2 weight divisions, Eubank coming down to a weight he hasn't been at for, I don't know, I think 10 years or something. He was saying hasn't been that low. I think they both got positives and negatives going into the fight. I think Eubank's got a lot of pressure on him, because if Connor beats him, it's hard for him to then come back at 160 and do the things he's saying he wants to do. I think Connor has got the opportunity to go back to 147 in the big fight. So I think they've both got strengths and weaknesses in the fight, and I think they've got a lot of things they can take from it. But I'm not going to get into a discussion as to who's going to win, because I can't win that one.
I understand. I'm just playing. The card then, and yeah, the card is there. We saw it. You know, there's a couple of fighters that I really like the look of on there. You've got Matty Harris that fights out of Wasserman, a heavyweight fighter. One to watch. The joint promotion side, something that I really like to see, because you promoters have got some really good fighters, and we just want to see them fight each other. Is this the beginning of the future of the UK promoters working with each other and giving us fight fans the fights that we want to see?
Look, I think we always work with everyone. We always want to work with everyone. Calla, we've worked Calla and Nissa and Wasserman. We've worked with for a long time, even before they were Wasserman, Sowell and brothers. Nothing changes there. We had Alicia Baumgardner fighting on the card, the boxer card, the other week. We work with Top Rank a lot. We work with Golden Boy a lot. We're willing to make the fights. We're speaking to George Warren often at the minute around a certain fight. So, we
I didn't even know he existed till I saw him at the press conference yesterday.
He does exist. He is real. No, but look, we're always open to working with everyone. There's nothing standing in the way. Providing it makes sense for the fighters, then we'll always look at it. So, it's good. It's good for the sport. And like I say, we've had a long relationship with the Sowlands, and I can't wait to deliver a huge event. The undercard, as you say, you got Galal Yafai on there as well in his fourth fight. Stepping up. I think he's fighting the guys 13th in the WBC rankings, 15th in the WBO. Yeah, you got Felix Cash on there as well against Conor Coyle. I think that would be a good fight on the card. You got Ellie Scottney against Mary Romero for the European title. Lyndon Arthur's back out. Matty Harris, Chloe Watson, Shannon Courtney, Maisie Rose will announce soon, makes her professional debut on there. Harlem Eubank and other family members on the card as well. So it's a stacked card from top to bottom. I'm looking forward to it.
So you'll spend the majority of the evening in a cupboard. But anyway, final words then about this card that's happening on Saturday night. Unfortunately, Lee Wood was out of it due to injury. A shame, really, because I know he's a massive ticket seller. But something that Matchroom never does, they never cancel a bout. The show always goes on. Talk to me about that ethos.
Yeah, look, ultimately we wanted to deliver the Lee Wood Maurizio Lara fight. It was a massive fight. But basically almost sold out tickets, had something like a few hundred left to go. And it was a massive fight. I think in terms of keeping it on, ultimately, look, we had a decision to make. We wanted to do Lee Wood Maurizio Lara. Didn't happen. We've obviously got the likes of Galahad Hughes, you got the likes of Terry Harper against Hannah Rankin, 2 great fights there, world title fights there. You got Chev Clark. You got Cyrus Patterson on the card. You've got Sol Dakers on there. You got Junaid Boston, his first fight with us. You got Rhiannon Dixon. All these fighters have been training hard for a long time to get out on this date. So we had to look at it and go, it was important for us to keep those active. So fans, you can't always win because they'll say, it's not the show it was. Well, obviously it's not, and we wish it was what it was. But the key for us was keeping the fighters active. So that sort of, that's about it. If we cancelled the show, everyone would have been like, look at all these fighters who aren't getting out. So it's hard to win with the fans sometimes. The key aim for us is keep the fighters busy and make sure they get their fight and get paid.
Beautiful final words. Mr. Smith, Frank Smith, thank you so much for your time. Sorry I couldn't walk over there. My feet are absolutely killing me. Until the next time, October Red Boxing. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.